Hi, my name is Jill Pugh, and I'm an attorney in the Seattle area. I've been an attorney for 17 years. 14 of those years I've been a solo. I am the chair of the King County Bar Association Solo Small Firm section, and I'm also a client of Main Street. And I use Dwayne Crone often as an expert to speak at CLEs on malpractice insurance, professional liability insurance issues, and he asked me to come speak about what I know, which is solo and small firm practice. The number one question I get when I meet with new attorneys that are contemplating going out on their own is, how do you get clients? And sometimes I forget that that is the number one question since I've been doing it for so long. The number one answer that I have for them is to network. And I know that that can be hard as a brand new attorney because you're kind of shy, you feel like you don't have anything to offer, but you do, and it is the number one way to get clients because regardless of your practice area, almost everyone's best referral source is other attorneys. Practice areas can then change who is the second best referral source, but networking is how you're going to meet any of those people. The book that changed my entire outlook on networking and marketing as a solo is a book that's called Never Eat Alone by a gentleman named Keith Ferrazzi, and it's available in bookstores, on Amazon. You can find it used, but the reason it changed my life is that I didn't like the idea of sales. It seemed kind of icky as a sole practitioner. I wanted to practice law. And this book talks about relationships, which is really all networking is. And it talks about cultivating those relationships and thinking about what you can do for others, not what they can do for you. Which means sometimes it takes a while to build that book of business, but it also, at a time when you have the most available time as a new practitioner, it's the time to build those relationships. I would highly recommend finding the book and reading it. And then there's several other ways. If you're a really shy person, in person might not be your best way of marketing, although I would still urge you give it your best shot. But there's, in this modern electronic age, some other ways to network with people. I highly recommend Twitter. The important thing about Twitter is to use it as an interactive process, to not simply just send out self-congratulatory tweets about the grand opening of your practice or only about what you do. You should look at Twitter as a conversation, but I find a lot of people who are shyer in person do better with things like Twitter, where you don't have to walk up to somebody in a crowded room and introduce yourself. You can get a Twitter account. I highly recommend using your own name or the name of your law firm and listen for a while and then jump in and join the conversation. Handwritten notes after you do meet with people in person will set you apart from all of your colleagues because you almost never see them anymore. And I make it a policy to do that. I send thank you notes, I send good to meet you handwritten notes, and people remember me for that. The other important piece from the book is to then track those contacts because it's very helpful to meet people, but it's not very helpful to build your practice if you don't remember who you met, when did you meet them, and try and put in notes about what made that person unique, what are things where you could reconnect with that person. An example I often give is a professional contact and friend of mine. Her son's very into Legos, and I keep track of all my contacts in my Outlook, and under notes, I have a note to remind myself that her son's very into Legos. And at various different times, if I'm reading something or I see something on the web about a convention coming into town, I shoot her an email, say, hey, you probably already know this, but this is coming into town. And that opens the door to have communication with her, and frequently, after having that contact, she might think of me and send me a referral. She may not, but she remembers me pleasantly so that when someone needs an employment lawyer, she thinks of me. Another way, if you're feeling a little bit shy about meeting people in person, is to use LinkedIn. I'm starting to use that more and more after I go to conventions or things where you meet lots of people at once. It's a way to do something productive with all those business cards you collect when you go to those meetings. I use those, I take the stack, and in addition to entering them in my Outlook, I will send them an invite with LinkedIn. And I can't emphasize enough, when you send an invite on LinkedIn, give the person some clue of how they know you. Don't just use the pre-written language in LinkedIn that says, I'd like to make you a professional contact. Remind them how they met you, and they're much more likely to say, oh yeah, I remember, and sure, I'd like to stay connected with that person. So those are some tips on networking as a way to increase your business.